Eat shit.
It's for YouTube.
Fuck you. You're an asshole. Fucking jerk.
I've had this for 30 years and the batteries have never worn out. Now, that's fucking zen. 30 fucking years and the batteries have never worn out.
Eat shit. Fuck you. You're an asshole.
The final word. Now, there's something. In reading the comments from the YouTubers, now I assume when they say I'm their nigga, that's a good thing. Is that right? You my nigga. No offense to black people, but several of them call me that. And but I think if a white person says that, it's not so complimentary. Not that I give a shit. And some of them are asking, where do we get the rest of the material? And I've said it until I'm blue in the face. And the reason why I stopped the podcast, Ask the $50 Billion Man, is after about a year or whatever it was, the same fucking questions. So they didn't listen to podcast 3, and they're asking in podcast 33 the same question that was answered in podcast 3, or the same question that was answered in newsletter 41, or the same question that was answered in Reflections and Confessions of the $50 Billion Man, or in the 500 or 600 pages of free content on my site. So they're fucking lazy. Now just imagine if they had the mega fuck, okay? And the guys and gals, most of the people, and this is why the personal development industry, if you want to call it that, tell the Nazi to sit down because you're fucking up our filming here. Yeah. Take a look at his head, so they want to know what a Gestapo guy from looked like. They get a good picture of him there. Yeah. The reason why the personal development business continues today is because you're all lazy. Because you really never read anything. I mean, up until I came along, anything other than Think and Grow Rich. That's a definitive Bible, more or less. And there's been a couple things that have been written since then, like Tough-Minded Management and Tough-Minded Leadership by Joe Batten, and the books that I listed yesterday, which we're going to keep a secret from the YouTubers. A secret. There's only 7 or 8 books worth reading. The rest you can burn over Christmas in the fireplace. And but it's because people are lazy. They're lazy. And you'll see when we do our Zoom calls, after, maybe not the first Zoom call, because you'll give the other person the benefit of the doubt. You'll give Irish the benefit of the doubt. But by the second Zoom call, or the third Zoom call, he's just a lazy cunt. And by the time you ascertain it, if we were at war, we would have already been dead, buried, and they would have had the 21-gun salute and, the bugle. Because when you figure it out, and I figured it out the first week or two. And again, that's why the mentor program is free. Last night you saw Too Big to Fail. Okay? And at the end of the movie, the Secretary of Treasury looks out the window. By the way, he was a bird lover. That's that's real. He is a bird lover. What do you call people that...
Ornithologists?
People that chase birds around and shit like that?
Yeah. I guess it's one who studies birds.
Tree huggers.
Yeah. Anyway, he looks out the window. What does he say?
I hope they do.
I hope they do.
Of course they will.
Yeah, of course. Give the money out, and of course they didn't. Okay, what's the takeaway from the movie?
You don't
In
want
emergencies, sorry.
I was going to say, you don't want to be one of the people that had their entire life savings dependent on the stock market. Because imagine having your whole life savings dependent on that.
And look at how the Lehman guy fought so hard he didn't want to close the bank down. how the guy who played the CEO of Wells Fargo, who didn't need the fucking money, because not all the banks needed the money. And the government forced them, because if only 2 or 3 banks took the money, then it'd look funky. It was funky anyway, because down deep inside they knew that they weren't going to lend out the money. In effect, what it was really doing was going to be tightening the credit, not loosening the credit. And up in this world, part of the world, it's tight as hell. You know, it's easier to get 5 million pounds than it is 50,000 pounds up here. Yeah.
This time what I picked up was in the beginning when they're negotiating with, I think it's leaving with, I believe it's the Japanese DA. Don't change the deal unless you're prepared for all hell to break loose.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but now you have, and the reason why we show the movie at the end, you have a different perspective. And we're going to talk about money today, and I've been saying this since 1993. The world is more flush with cash than it ever has been. And every year I say it's flush with more cash. And the myth that there's no cash out there is just a myth. And it's quite remarkable. I remember about 15 years ago, a guy at Lloyd's sat in my library drinking to excess about September in the year. And he said, Dan, I'm 775 million pounds underinvested. You know, can you help me out? 707, and yet I know guys that couldn't get 50 grand. 50 grand. But there's a way, and now you understand better how to put the financial institutions in a professional way on their back foot, because it's an interviewing process. And but up here, 30 years ago, and to a certain extent even today, bankers are little Hitlers. I mean, they push you around, and you know they want you to think of them in awe. I told a story to somebody the other night when Sally and I came back to this country after being gone 12 years. I had to get my new permanent visa and a bunch of other things, and and part of that I had to get a bank account, and they want a utility bill and I don't have any of that. And so they said, well, what do you have in the name? And I said, nothing. So we had to put one of the phones in my name, or I forget what we did. So we were legitimate. And when we went to the local forfeit bank, I got to see a real manager, not a relationship guy or gal. And so I brought Kim as my interpreter, just like I brought Tony Ward to the Irish thing. And so the manager said, well, why is this woman here? Is it my interpreter? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying to me. And so it wasn't so funny. They didn't think it was so funny. And so we went there, and then they had told us, we thought that a colored picture of my passport was good. But no, they want the real passport. So we had to come back again after lunch. And so we're sitting with her again. It's a lady manager. And she said, so it all gets finished up. And she says, well, I hope to see you again, and I hope to do business with you. And I looked at her in the eye. I said, I hope the fuck I never see you again the rest of my life. Just like that. And she looked kind of shocked. And so Kim and I walked out. Kim said, he says, Dan, they're not used to that. I'm sure she's never heard that. You probably hurt her feelings. And I said, well, write her a little note and said that Mr. Peña is just a beast, and that's how he talks to people. But I hope I never see her again. I hope I'm never in there in the branch. And I used to have, and it's public record now, I used to have a shade under 5 million pound credit card, a gold Bank of Scotland, 4.8 million pounds. And they used to tell me that was the biggest one in Scotland. I don't know if it was or not. I only used it a couple of times. But whereas the normal, I guess, are 10, 20, 30 grand or 5 grand or etc. But you will have no problem getting finding the money. The problem, and as I've said since 1993 and since 1981 when I came to the UK, it's the deal. Most of you, and you know better now, what the real definition of a deal that makes sense. When the numbers stack up, there's no limit to the money that you can get for your transaction. But the numbers have to stack up. And just as, where's the other Polak? Oh, and he had another idea this morning. That's good. I'm not telling you not to. But, I mean, he's had 8 ideas now, right?
Yeah.
And I heard all, in fact, this last one, it's already out there. And so, but that's good. You got to keep swinging at the plate. And, but remember, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you had an epiphany, oh, this is a great idea. As we speak, there's probably 1 million people around the planet that had the same epiphany that are doing it, that are or have already done it. I talked to a net scum last night, the Nazi net scum, and and he kept using words. What were the words you used?
Scaling it up.
That's what he needs to scale up. I mean, those words. All the net scum use those words, and then I drill down how, why, when, where, what, because they read a book or listen to a podcast about scaling up. Scaling up is, you get, I don't know, I know what it means. Remember I said, if it doesn't have traffic, I mean, you might as well forget it. I mean, you can always adjust conversion, fine-tune conversion, but if it's got to start with traffic. And the golden rule in pornography, 1 million come to your site, then you can make money. 1 million. Not 600,000. And I mean, nobody in this room has got 1 million coming to the site in a day. That's the gold benchmark. And then you get 300 a day or 500 a day. You might as well blow your brains out. That's metaphorically speaking, not for real. I don't want anybody blowing their brains out. So getting back to the movie. Now, what other takeaway? Yes, sir.
In emergency, every rule is broken.
Boy, ain't that the truth. Yes. In an emergency, there are no rules, as we talked about earlier. There are no rules. And but that's not how you've been raised. My father and mother would no more try to renegotiate their mortgage rate. They'd commit suicide first. When I told my parents many years ago that every 18 months we call all my credit cards and renegotiate the credit card interest down, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. You can do the same. You call, and when you say that you want your rates down, they say you can't. And then you say, let me talk to your supervisor. And then they say you can't. And then you say your supervisor, and then cancel the card. Those are words they don't want to hear. And they will renegotiate your rate down and expand the limit. And I'm not saying anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. If you don't know that, then you haven't been listening to the right fucking podcasts. We've had people in this room, we used to have an exercise to do, but we don't do it anymore, that had like a 10,000 credit or limit on their MasterCard or whatever, kick it to 50 from the room and drop the interest rate 50 basis points from the room. Okay, YouTubers, it's like sex, it all comes at the end. Thank you.